Good evening, everybody. It's Sunday night at 10 p.m. Of course, it's the APAT Show. You've been waiting for us. You have all day. I'm sure you have. Out there on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, the APAT website. We're all over the show, basically. So I hope you're having a good Sunday. Lee, we have a guest, but he hasn't shown up yet. Am I right? He hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah. Obviously, I've made the plan to book an Aston Villa fan for tonight's show, obviously. And I even did it after the game this afternoon. So I'm really an absolute glutton for punishment. But yes, Tom Baker will be with us in about 5 minutes or so. He's just in makeup, so I'm told. So it won't be long.
5 minutes, you say, Lee? 5 minutes? Yeah. You reckon Tom Bacon could get through makeup in 5? Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. But it does give us a chance, Des, to do the usual thing at the top of the show. And
let's do it.
And just let you guys know that you've got just under 4 minutes if you want to get into the APAT Show Turbo Knockout for the night. It's already got 50 runners, so it's now on that guarantee. So we might get a few more entries in before the end of registration, which is now in just under 4 minutes time. I've got up on screen. This is not often we get to see this, Des. So, I mean, you might want to put the poker up straight away because I've got the deep stack final 3. It's the final table of the deep stack. There is one lesser spotted Steve Forte on this final table. Yeah, he is there making a decision as we speak against Rafael Capoza from Belgium. Steve is at the short stack of the 3 remaining players. Christos from Greece is the massive chip leader in this one. But yeah, Steve already locked up what's about $60, 150 up top for winning this. So very nice indeed. So good luck to you, Steve, in this. Trouble is this big stack here is really bullying this table, and the other two are just at some point going to have to get the chips in the middle and close your eyes and hope for the best. I think that's pretty much the way it's going to play out.
Go the Bulls. Go the Bulls is what we have to say to Steve, who, of course, and we have to find out how he did, Lee. He was at the Hereford-Portsmouth FA Cup game on Friday night. He promised us he'd do his best to get an APAT sort of placard on the BBC. I'm not sure that he got that away, but he tried anyway. His beloved Hereford going out 3-1. I think they might have taken the lead in that game. Didn't work out in the end, but I hope he had a good night. He is out there watching. He has said, go to the deep stack final table now. Go now, quickly. But outside of that, we've got a bunch of people watching in, Lee. So the Oracle is there. Good evening to you, Simon. Mr. 40, of course. Hi, Lion Dees. Right, we can do that. Brendan Byrne, good evening, gents. And I think, when you mention Brendan Byrne, it's probably a good link into how are we doing on the leaderboard. But maybe before you even tell us how we're doing on the leaderboard, Lee, you've probably got some sort of random invite to offer out.
What random invite?
Yeah, random invite. So everybody, you're invited to the APAT Show tourney, right?
Well, yeah, but you've only got like a minute and a half if you want to get into it. So you've got to,
go.
The time is ticking if you do want to get into that. But it is that is the last tournament of the week. So there's been 16 in total. And I'll tell you what, do you know what's been nice this week, Des?
Yeah.
There has been a new yet old name at the top of the leaderboard. One Tom Clark comes into Sunday top of the leaderboard, and he's also added points from Min Cash in the deep stack. As we're watching Steve Forte just double up there through the chip leader. So well done, Steve. Sevens were good against the ace 3, 7 on the turn. So everyone's chasing Tom Clark. Dylan Herbert in second place. Tony Ross in third. Andrew Drago fourth. Dan Smith fifth. Pontus Dahlgren's in there. Richard Rudling Smith. Peter Heyer. Alan Ellis. Graham Pound. They're all chasing Tom Clark. He's added more points tonight, so it's looking good for him, I think. As I say, this is what we're watching is the deep stack. Tom's already cashed a little bit in that. Shuggles will finish fourth in that one as well, so he's added some points. What a flop for the ace 3 there. It doesn't get much better against the pocket jacks. Very nice indeed. So yeah, we've got the main event going on tonight. 50 runners in that. So that's on the final table at the moment. 9 left in that one. Brendan Byrne is on that final table. Eagle's on there as well. David Clark is on there as well. PLO is down to 4 now, paying top 5. So Dean Dayton is chip leader in that. Danny Weaver's on that final table as well, as is James Wood. And as I say, then we've got the Turbo, which has got. There you go. That's registration closed in the Turbo. 54 runners in that one, so pretty good. Now our guest was in the Turbo, He was in a few events tonight.
Careful, he's above you. He's up there now.
But tell me, it's not probably been the best poker day for you, but the football's gone all right, yeah? So that's the way to look at it, yeah?
Yeah, I've made the customary donation to all 4 competitions and 0 cashes. So,
oh dear,
as expected, the show Bok in full effect. But yeah, Villa won against United at home for the first time since 1995. So I will take that.
He'll take
that 1995. Was that the first day of the season when you?
Yeah.
Was that you can't win anything with kids?
I think it might have been that one.
Yeah,
it was a Villa 3 United 1 on the first day of the season when Hansen said that. I guess it was probably that one when
yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it's been that length of time since we've won. I think we've won at Old Trafford.
Yes,
I remember Bonlaw scoring in 1-0 win in 2009-10. But yeah, it's been pretty slim pickings.
Well, in all accounting, obviously it wasn't on the TV, so I didn't see it. But from what I can gather, a well-deserved victory. We were rubbish. You were brilliant. The crowd were absolutely bouncing around the place and thoroughly deserved. I don't know how much credit the new manager can take. But I'm sure we'll get on to talk about all of that as we go through the show. But what a way to start your return to the Premier League for him. Yeah,
absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Bacon has joined us. So we will come on and talk a lot about football as the evening goes on. I'm sure we will. Simon Lawler also said no APAT Show curse. So we might be a little bit late to the show with that one. Simon Allen has joined. Evening to you, sir. Eddie Niascu is there as well. Good evening to you, Eddie. And Tom Clark is in fact there as well, Lee. So Tom on a bit of a run this evening, hoping to top it all at the end of the night.
Well, he's also in the Turbo Knockout, so he's currently 4th in chips in that. So he's trying to make sure he can secure that top spot on the leaderboard for the week.
Fantastic. So listen, guys, get your questions in the chat box. If it's anything you want to talk about, football, poker, politics, we can handle anything here, right? We might not know a great deal about what we're going to talk about. We'll have a go. Get your question in there. So Steve says, Des Duffy and Lee Wilshire, I was on TV, but security took my APAT sign off of me. Oh, dear,
they don't take all signs away. So was it because it was particularly advertising a brand, or was it just that maybe you need to be a bit more discreet on smuggling signs into football matches? He needs to work on that. Yeah.
It sounds to me like he gave it up too easily, Lee. It's just they walked over to him to check for, I don't know, pound coins or whatever you normally throw at your opponent's fans, and he just immediately gave up the sign. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, what I will say is he's now just about chip leader in this deep stack with 3 of them left. So good luck to you in that, Steve. That's for sure. So Tom, you've been to Dust Till Dawn today for the Grand Prix.
Yeah. I played one of the online day ones. Got a fairly mediocre stack through, but as is the case with their tournaments, you're in the money as soon as you make day 2. So you don't ever have to go there and have like 3 big blinds and bust and go away empty-handed. Managed a ladder to a couple of pay jumps, but yeah, didn't really get above sort of 20 bigs, and then had about 8 to 10 bigs for most of the tournament, which is a bit tedious, but it's one of those things.
But I'm assuming a packed card room for the day 2.
There were, I think, nearly 200 people in day 2.
Wow!
Because it's I think it's 100k guarantee, but it's only 120 buy-in, so they have to get 1,000 runners to make the guarantee. So which means obviously 15%. I think they got like 1,200 or something total runners, and then just under 200 made day 2. So it's really busy.
I did see a video from Rob on his Twitter account talking about it and saying that he'd asked Simon Trumper to arrange a monthly version of that in the club for 2023, which I thought was quite a big statement thing to make. I'm not sure how often they run the Grand Prix when they were under Party Poker. Was it once a quarter, maybe something like that?
Possibly. I've never actually known if they have like with DTD, they seem to just have events just pop up, so I've never really known that there's been a kind of a schedule in place, or if there has been, I haven't noticed what it is.
Well, I can let you into, I think we can probably comfortably let into a few secrets about 2023. One thing I know for sure is Dust Till Dawn is going to have one hell of a schedule for 2023. As I say, Rob mentioned a monthly kind of Grand Prix style tournament, so about £100 buy-in with 100k guarantee every single month. And obviously this week we confirmed 4 dates that APAT are going to be at Dust Till Dawn for 2023. So our UK team event, UK Championship, the WCAP, and obviously Poker Squads, which is happening in a couple of weeks for this year. But we've got those dates in, and the reason we've got those out now and got this book because Rob was saying to us, look, guys, what dates do you want? I need to get, because I'm filling up fast with Dust Till Dawn, so they've got huge plans for 2023. So expect a lot of really, really good tournaments being held at Dust Till Dawn next year. It's going to be quite an exciting year for poker in the UK, I think.
Looks insane.
They have a new feature table as well,
yes.
which I think has recently been done.
Yeah, they're so they're kind of building up, I think is the way they're up. They've built up into the roof, and it's going to be a really cool kind of studio streaming setup, similar to what the Poker Go guys have had.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite impressive to be able to stream in kind of high end cash games, but also a lot of final tables of tournaments and things like that. So it's they've got big plans, and I think it's great that they've. It feels like Rob's really putting focus back on kind of his baby, I guess, in Nottingham with when he set Dust Till Dawn up, and it's and I think the important thing is, again, from picking up from Rob's Twitter video, was one of the phrases or statements he made was we're now back up to full resources dealer wise, which is the critical thing. I think when we were there last year, I know some players were not critical, but we're a little bit disappointed maybe with some of the capacities and what we could do. But it was simply a case of there weren't the dealers there, and they were having to train them up and get them back experienced again. And that doesn't happen overnight. That unfortunately takes time. But it sounds like they're kind of there or thereabouts now. So I'm guessing for the Grand Prix then today, Tom, there would have been 20 odd tables of the Grand Prix plus some cash games going, other bits and pieces happening. So it really was pretty packed.
Yeah, they had a daily event as well. I think the something 100. So yeah, there's a side event as well. I think you have to put one on really when you have people coming back and they're in the money for day 2. You're just going to get so many people busting straight away that it makes sense. So they have we restarted at 2, and they and then there was this event was at 3. So they kind of time it so that they'll get most of the people who've bust early on.
You didn't fancy that, no?
No, Mr. Haycock was.
Well, I was going to say, I know Paul cashed in the Grand Prix as well, and he decided to play the 100 as well, and he's on his way home at the moment as well. So that, he did say he may jump on the show if he gets back in time to give us a
I bust just in time to be able to get home for W Coop and various Sunday stuff online, so I thought I'd do that rather.
Take 2 of that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Is going on tonight after their technical issues first time round.
So I thought I'd take that option rather than grinding another live tournament and wishing I had not done that, which is usually what happens. I find when you read something when you've just bust something else.
Tom, you've had a decent sort of month, haven't you? You final tabled in Manchester. What can you tell us about that at APAT in Manchester?
Yeah, that was really good actually. I was saying to Tom when I was there, it's one of the reasons I first started playing APAT was because I really like the structures, a really good structure for a small buy-in. And I think like the average stack when we came back for day 2 was about 60 something big blinds, which is crazy, and on a 40-minute clock. So it was a really, really good tournament, loads and loads of play in it. And the venue is nice as well. I've never been to 235 before, but it's a very nice venue. So yeah, it's kind of what you'd expect with an APAT live tournament, where it's actually quite good quality for a pretty small buy-in. I played the online one as well, so I didn't play any of the Friday or Saturday, but it seemed like it was pretty packed from what I could tell.
No, we were delighted with the numbers, Lee, right? Given the capacity of the.
Did you go up on the Friday and the Saturday, Tom?
No, I couldn't, which is why I played the online one in the first place. Because normally, I would probably have had a maybe fired a bullet in the online one just because it means you can have another go live.
Right. This is all making sense now, because I couldn't understand quite why the rest of the APAT Show team managed to get so drunk in Manchester, but you weren't there to look after them. So that's it. All makes a lot of sense now. Yeah.
There's a correlation between alcohol consumed and made day 2.
Always.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those where I would have liked to, if I could have played it, I would have liked to play live, because I prefer playing live with those kind of tournaments anyway. And obviously with APAT, it's a bit more of a social aspect to it. So I would have liked to, but I couldn't just because I had plans on the Saturday. So I played the online just because it meant that I could just pop up on the Sunday. And again, like, because you're in the money, you don't mind going, like, traveling to a day 2, because you know you're not going to leave empty-handed.
No, exactly. We do have an APAT Show team chat that all the regular guests and stuff are in, and I wasn't in Manchester, but I felt like I was there listening to the to the comments that were made. I don't think I've ever seen quite an understanding of I've got a sore head coming across from just like a chat. But yeah, they clearly had a good weekend up in Manchester, and obviously you had a cracking poker run. So how did that final table go for you?
Early on, it went relatively well, and I think I was probably chip leader and with like sort of 8 left. And then I didn't really lose that many big pots, but I think just lost a lot of small ones, and nobody busted for quite a while. And it ended up kind of one guy had all the chips, and then the other stacks were all quite similar. So it was kind of a frustrating sort of one, where fourth is obviously quite good, and you'd always take that at the start of a tournament because it's getting to the final table is ideal, and it doesn't happen a lot of time. But it was one of those where I felt like it was kind of in my hands a bit. As I was also, funnily enough, I was next to a guy called Danny Ryder, who I don't know if you guys know, but he's a friend of mine. I know him quite well from playing a lot of the Grosvenor events. And he was sat next to me on the final table, and I felt like I spent a lot of the first few levels of the final table just talking to him and not really paying any attention to the poker. So that was probably not an ideal strategy. But yeah, it was one of those where I lost a few annoying ones, and sometimes it doesn't go your way.
No, it is surprising how much where you need to pay attention. Not that sounds like Danny was doing anything to put you off, because obviously you're good mates. I learned a very, very good lesson. One of the first live tournaments I ever played, which I'm very fortunate to play out in the Caribbean, one of the first times I ever played live, and I played in a little side event before kind of the main event that I'd want to package into, just to kind of think, well, I'll just get an idea of what's going on, and was sat next to this guy, professional, but couldn't even tell you what his name was, professional player from the UK, that was all chatty with me, and I eventually busted the tournament, having and realized that actually all he'd been doing the entire time was basically just putting me off concentrating on anything whatsoever was going on, because he'll be still absolute fish at the table, and just like complete. And afterwards I remember going back to the hotel. I said, I don't remember anything that went on really, because I wasn't really paying any attention, because this guy was just chatting. Oh right, okay, should pay more attention. Should pay more attention.
Detail.
Well, it's still Steve is still going strong here. Still chip leader. Christos had a massive stack on this when we were 3-handed here, but he's let that go. See whether Steve can take this one down. Just to give you a quick update on the others, No Limit Hold'em main event, we are down to 6. We lost Brendan in 8th place, unfortunately, and the PLO is down to the final 3 now. So Danny Weaver is chip leader, Dean Dayton's there as well, and James Wood. And we are now down to 22 on the turbo knockout. So we'll see how that goes. Were you gutted not to miss out on the medals, to pick up an individual medal in Manchester, or I don't know, the medals matter? Do medals matter to you, Tom,
it would have been nice, but I've got quite a few bronze ones, so I feel like I don't need any more of those. So it's kind of like
that's what the other ones look like, Tom.
Yeah, it's kind of like I want to win or nothing, really.
Yeah, because obviously, you picked up, you've done all right in recent times in APAT in the in team event and that kind of thing. So it's not like you haven't tasted success and glory, And
and I would like the medal, because obviously it's quite nice to have. But I prefer no more bronze ones and maybe a few more golds.
Yeah, that's. Is that do you think, is that anything in particular? Just getting down to that stage in the tournament and things just haven't gone your way, or do you think it's something where you want to work on in your game or could improve your game at that point when you're playing short-handed, or not?
I don't think so. I think I've played. I mean, I have to think back to when I won them. But I mean, one of them was from the PLO 8 online in the online APAT during lockdown, which I played very little PLO 8, so making the final table at all was quite a good win. And I couldn't really do a lot on that final table. I was kind of short and had the 2 big stacks to my left. And then other ones, I don't remember exactly how they went down, but I don't think it's really a short-handed thing, to be honest. I think my short-handed game is okay. I'd rather, if I was continually coming kind of like 8th or 9th, I think that's much more annoying. Whereas coming 3rd, at least you've managed to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Just going to pick up a couple of things in the chat. Simon Lawler asks about poker squads for next year. Is it longer? Because he spots these things when we put dates up. He doesn't miss a trick, does he? Yeah. It is. There is going to be an extra day. We don't quite know what yet, but Dustle Dawn offered us the Thursday as well, and we went, yeah, why not? Let's do that. We'll come up with something. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet. It won't involve mini golf in any way whatsoever. That's definitely won't be a thing, but that's right. And Pete Wigglesworth is in the chat and just saying, yeah, poker players generally chat shite ultimately just after your chips. Yeah, it's you do live and learn. I'm just really nice. I generally, if I'm talking to you at the table, trust me, I'm just being chatty. I don't have no ulterior motive whatsoever. But yeah, you are right. There are some players that will look for any angle or any opportunity to gain an edge at the table, I guess.
I think players are more likely, if you've been friendly with someone, they're more likely to play quite honestly against you. So they're kind of less likely to run any outrageous bluffs or 3-bet you light, or So I think that's kind of a tactic people use, is you just become friendly with you to try and make you easier to read to them.
Yeah. It's I don't know. How do you find it? I always try and take away whether you're friends or people at the table. It's just you don't play any differently. But I guess it is difficult at times to. I tend to find people tend to play if you know they try it on far more than they normally would with.
If you're genuinely friends, then definitely because it's funnier. If you exactly. Yeah, if show up with some ridiculous hand and they're like, what are you doing? But if it's kind of like you just become friendly at that tournament, I think it's obviously there's some sort of level of friendship that you get to where it goes from being polite and playing nicely against each other to just trying to ruin each other's days.
Yeah, I think it's a home game is obviously a different thing altogether, because that really is just about banter and seeing what you can what you can get away with. I guess when you're in a tournament of a decent level that you've paid entry for, I suppose you have to take it reasonably seriously in what you do. That is for sure.
Listen, gents, talking about ruining each other's days, what the hell is going on over at Twitter? What has Elon Musk been up to over the last week? Crikey.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you pay your money, you can do you can do what you like with it, can't you?
Is it his money?
Well, you're assuming
it is,
isn't it? Yeah, you're assuming it's his money, isn't it? But I don't know. I mean, the guy's not an idiot.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. So you kind of assume there's some logic to it all. And at the moment, he's probably quite enjoying the fact that everybody's talking about it. My mum and dad came down on Friday night with my younger brother and his wife. So came over for dinner on Friday, and we sat at dinner just chatting away, And also, my mum said, Mum looked up and just went, whilst I've got some sensible, intelligent people around, the table here, what do you make of this Musk guy?
Brilliant. Job done.
Well, Well, he's clearly doing something right, isn't he? If my 70-something-year-old mum, who's not on Twitter and doesn't do anything, computer-wise whatsoever, is talking about him.
It truly depends on whether she's willing to pay the $8 for the blue mark, Lee. It's all about the $8, apparently.
But can you just pay for it now then, or do you have to still meet the criteria initially?
Not that I see, but I guess if you want to, officially verify who you are, I guess your question is, do you have to be a celebrity to have it? And by all accounts, not now. But I suppose it still acts as a verification tool. So if Lee Wilshire turns up with a blue tick, you are the Lee Wilshire. Quite how the whole thing will work, I don't know. But, in terms of adding another stream of revenue for Twitter, good business, I'd say.
Well, it does make you wonder whether how many people will then just go, well, actually, for $8 a month, I can have a blue tick on my Twitter. Yeah, I'll do that.
A lot will. Of course, a lot will.
Yeah. So there'll be more blue ticks than necessarily there are at the moment on that basis.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, in the deep stack, Steve, I don't know what to say. It all went horribly wrong for.
Where's he gone?
And Christos has now got the chip lead and his head's up against Rafael. So yeah.
Wow. Didn't even see his exit.
It's a sort of APAT show bok, to be honest. I was just updating the results. Did you see it, Tom, or not?
No, I presume he got ejected along with his sign.
Yeah, that just sounds about right. Yeah. That's what happens, kids. Alcohol, it's a bad thing. Don't do it.
Listen, big up to Steve. He did try to get APAT on the BBC last week, and not too many of us have tried that. But he did say about the game, Ronnie Radford. Do you remember Ronnie Radford's rocket?
Yes.
Hereford had a result some years ago, and Radford got one of the goals of the FA Cup history. Died fairly recently, as I believe it, and was given a lot of love.
It was just last week, and obviously the timing with this round of the FA Cup kind of fell quite nicely, really. And Hereford took the lead in that game.
They did.
And looked quite decent early on, actually. But Portsmouth are just one of those sides that.
They've got a bit of FA Cup history, haven't they?
Exactly. And actually, they're probably one of the better sides down in the lower leagues, really, that could easily, with the right bit of money in behind them, and get a decent run and start looking to get back up to the top end of the pyramid.
Well, listen, I can't walk you through how Steve exited, but I can give you a sense of it. The Oracle said he punted Queen Jack, and Steve has come into the chat box and said, sick out draws. So I think we can all get a sense of how that thing ran out.
Fill in the gaps, folks. Fill in the gaps. Yeah.
Not to be. Sick out draws.
It's poker for you, isn't it? What do you do? Yeah.
Too funny. Too funny. So what about the Mighty Reds today, Lee?
Oh, really? Do we have to talk?
We're on our way back, Lee. We're on our way back. I'm telling you, I feel top 7 is within our grasp this year.
I mean, it's quite a scary thing where, Newcastle again today looked phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely. And they ripped you guys apart last week. So you're currently on a so I mean, I suppose we should go back from a Villa point of view to Villa and start with Gerrard going. I think last time you were on the show, or certainly in the chat in recent weeks, you've been saying the guy needs to go. So were you first of all happy that it happened? Was it too soon, too late? About right?
Definitely not too soon. I think probably he was given about as much a chance as made sense. I think he could have gone earlier, but I don't know. Managers are sacked too quickly these days, I think, a lot of the time. So you do kind of want to give him, see him given a fair chance. But I think for a lot of Villa fans, it was quite clear just from even the first game of the season that it didn't really look like the team really knew what they were doing or had any sort of coherent style of play. And that's been the same throughout, even the games that we've won with Gerrard. We haven't looked convincing, and we've just beaten a team who is worse than us on the day. So I think it was definitely the right decision. I didn't really see a lot from Gerrard to suggest that he's a good manager, to be honest. And we lost our assistant manager Mick Beale, who went to QPR, who's manager of QPR now. And I think there's a lot of noise coming from people around Villa and who were, I think he was at Rangers as well, saying he was kind of the real brains behind the coaching side. And Gerrard was much more of like the face. So that was obviously a big loss. But yeah, it was definitely the right decision. We played. I don't know if you've watched any of Villa's games this season, but we've been absolutely terrible to watch. And like the players all looked kind of clueless, and a lot of them just kind of devoid of confidence and are worse than they were when he got there. So it's definitely the right the call to get rid of him. But what I think is good is that they had someone lined up straight away. They've never really taken too long to replace someone after they've been sacked. The Villa current owners, it's always been kind of within a week, pretty much. So to get someone of Emery's sort of caliber, I know that Arsenal fans don't really like him and don't think he did a very good job there. But at the same time, it was a very difficult job following Wenger after he'd been there that long. And their squad at the time, I don't think was incredible. I think there's maybe some selective memories from some of the Arsenal fans just because they had been unhappy for a long time. But obviously also Villa are a different team to Arsenal. We're a different size club and we don't really command the same sort of status. So to get someone who's kind of been Champions League manager for the last 10 to 15, or Champions League and Europa League for the 10 to 15 years or so is a pretty big result for us.
Yeah, it absolutely feels that way. And tell me, Tom, so what, I suppose a good season this season would be we get back into mid-table and, we have a good pre-season and what have you. But, the next 2 to 3 years, I mean, where do you think can Emery take Villa to?
Yeah, I think top half this season was always kind of the aim.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is that the sides at the top of the table, so like kind of the big six traditionally, plus Newcastle now, they've got so much more resources. Even than Villa. Villa have got a lot of money behind them and the owners are willing to spend it. And they're also very ambitious, which you can tell from kind of the calibre of players that we've signed and the manager. So I think European football is kind of the aim within the next few seasons. To be honest, I think that's probably about as good as we can hope for. I think it's very difficult to break into that top six. And Newcastle look like they could be doing it this season. But even then, they still spent a lot of money. I think it seems like they haven't because they haven't bought a lot of really, really big names in that people have heard of, but they have still spent quite a lot. So I think just sort of cementing ourselves as a top half club, kind of the way that West Ham have in recent years, you kind of expect them to be up there.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the aim in the near term, and then go from there.
It seems to me like there's a big discussion ongoing at Spurs at the moment where Conte, everybody believes, will make them a successful team and possibly, win a trophy or whatever, get that elephant off their back. But there seems to be a degree of unhappiness with the style of play. Spurs have always been an attacking team and all of that palaver. I mean, do you have those same thoughts about Villa, or does it not really matter what the style of play is as long as you can get the results and start climbing the table?
I mean, it's difficult to say. I think, style of play is a big thing. I think part of the reason that Gerrard went was because the football was so bad. But I mean, I don't think you want to be too selective and say we want to play in a certain way. Mourinho played a not particularly incredible brand of football to watch when he first, came to Chelsea in the mid-2000s, but they just won lots of matches and they conceded hardly any goals, and he just played football that worked. And I don't think any of them would have complained at the time. So, I mean, I think the as long as you can see what the team is trying to do and you can see that there's a clear game plan, I think that's the main thing, and that's the thing that Villa fans have been concerned about under Gerrard.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Listen, let's take a quick look through the chat box. So we've been joined by Tom Banks. Haven't heard from Tom in a while. Good to have you on, Tom. Hope you're well. Steve says, my daughter is a Villa fan, so not great them beating United today. Steve, famously a United fan, but Matty had a massive week on fantasy football. He's got Mo Salah. Mo got a couple of goals today. Did I mention? Yeah, Mo got a couple of goals today. So nice. as Mr. 40 says. Pete Wigglesworth says Jesse Marsh was on the cusp of getting sacked. 2 crazy results for Leeds in the last 2 weeks. It's a fine line, isn't it? It's a fine line between success and failure. Steve goes on to say, and I'm not sure if I understand this, Villa is a team of quality players, just not a team of quality players. I mean, what am I missing there? Does he mean they've got quality players? They just don't play like a quality team?
Yeah. They don't play as a team.
Maybe I've misunderstood it. There we go. Tom Banks says, Peter Wigglesworth, I thought Mike Dean had retired. He has retired, hasn't he? I don't know. I'm missing that one as well.
I think he was referring to Pete. Pete Wigglesworth made the comment the Real Betis Sevilla game tonight was a 1-1 draw. Sevilla sending off 4 bookings and an own goal, and Betis had 6 bookings and 2 sendings off. It's like
sounds like a derby.
Brutal. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Mr. Friday joins us from Twitch, I think. Hi to you, sir. Hope you're having a good evening. Tom says stability first, then worry about the flair, and he's absolutely right there, right?
Yeah, there's a number of teams sort of down, bottom of the Premier League. I mean, it's going to be such an interesting season with obviously the break coming up in another week. So, which I'm guessing from your point of view, Tom, one more game. So you've got United again in the cup on Thursday, and then one more league game, and then the World Cup break. So from Emery's point of view, that's got to be absolutely perfect for him, because that's going to give him effectively a pre-season in the middle of the season to try and get what he wants across to the players and basically say, right, okay, forget what's happened up to now, we go again.
Yeah, I'm just off the top of my head, I can't remember how many players we have going to the World Cup, but I don't think it's a huge amount. So I think the main bulk of the squad he'll be able to work with. So yeah, it does work pretty well. I think there were certainly kind of concerns that maybe Villa were going to wait until after the World Cup so that they gave themselves that period and leave Aaron Danks in charge up until then. But like I said, I think I quite like that they've got a manager in this early, and then he's got the time to work with the squad. That's right. Over that, whatever.
But is Coutinho in the Brazilian squad?
No, he's injured.
Is he injured? So he won't. Is he out of the World Cup?
I believe so.
Okay. I mean, will Watkins make the England squad?
I would be very surprised. Like, he hasn't been in the last few, and he hasn't been, not necessarily through his own fault, but he hasn't been in incredible form this season.
But Mings would make it, I guess.
Again, I don't know. He hasn't been in the last few, and I mean, he's had a bit of a weird season where Gerrard took the captaincy off him, and kind of announced it in a weird way on like the eve of the season. And then in a post-match press conference after the first game, he said something like once Tyrone looks me in the eye and tells me that he's ready to play, he'll be back in the team, or something kind of weird like that. Whereas I think Mings was actually injured for the first game of the season. He was carrying a knock. Okay. So he's had a kind of a weird season, and I like Mings as a professional. I think he's a really, really good role model and a really good ambassador for the club, but he has got a mistake in him, and I think at top level international football, that's not really something that you want. And I think him and Connor Cody, I think, have both been in previous squads, a lot to do with the kind of leadership and the morale and the kind of qualities they give the group in general, rather than necessarily how they play on the pitch. I think centre back is an interesting position for England, because if we play with 3 at the back, I don't know how many quality centre backs that we have, and there aren't a huge number that are kind of dead certs for the squad. It's only really Stones, Maguire, and Dyer, I think, and even Maguire's not been in the United team at all, and not really been in that good form this season. So it's kind of a weird one.
Sorry, Tom, when you said Maguire and Dyer there, you were talking about 2 separate players? Just checking.
That was
just checking.
Yeah, that was DIER, not DIRE.
Don't forget, Maguire is is this generation's Dion Dublin, because you can just throw him up front when you're looking to get a second goal, so you don't have to play an extra playoff game in the Europa League. I mean, that's the sort of ability that this guy's got. I don't think he actually touched the ball when he came on Thursday night. It was absolutely appalling.
To be fair to Maguire, I think if you want to, even if he isn't starting, if you're defending a lead in a knockout game and you want someone to bring on to just head it away 100 times in a row, he is the perfect man. If you remember the Germany was at last 16 in the Euros, he just literally won every header for like the whole of the last 20 minutes.
He gets an absolute raw deal. I mean, he's been made the scapegoat for a lot of what's gone on at United in the last few years, and I think probably unfairly. Although his, and I think it's probably meant that his form and his confidence has dropped. And if you're not playing with a stable back four and people around you, I mean, crikey, even take Virgil van Dijk at Liverpool.
Steady.
Yeah. Well, he's not looked the player. He has not looked the player that he has done for the last 2 or 3 years this season because of the number of injuries you've had. You've not had the right players in midfield, basically, protecting that back four. So even the best centre backs in the world, can look a little bit dodgy and have mistakes in them if they've not got stability around them.
I think Maguire's been going downhill since that incident in Greece. To be honestly, that just signalled disaster.
No, do you know what that is? That is kind of the point, isn't it? It is from there
being
where
a loved
his
player
head wasn't.
To a lot of people having a go at him, and he went downhill.
But isn't it weird though that all that incident there? It's all gone very quiet. Nothing's ever come of it.
I agree.
And I don't know whether he will eventually actually even go to court over it or anything. I have no idea. Or whether it's just whether it is gone and forgotten about. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. And it's probably a good point to mention actually, whilst we're just talking football and World Cup. Next week's show, we're going to do a little bit of a World Cup preview chat. Got a few people booked on the show next week to talk about who we think we'll run through all of the groups and who we think is likely to do well, who the players to look out for, and who might well be somebody that you maybe not yet come across, who could well set the World Cup alight and might end up then be up for grabs in the January transfer window, which is always a possible.
Should be good. Tom Banks mentions Dyer. We mentioned him a while ago. Massive error today. He did for Spurs against Liverpool. Let Salah run through and score Liverpool's second.
That's to say, it was Salah. Salah got 2, but pretty much assisted by Spurs, both of them. Wasn't it?
Mr. Friday on Twitch is playing the
first one's good finish, huh?
Turbo Knockout.
Yeah, but he's another player, isn't he? Just hasn't really signed his new deal and just not really kind of done very well, to be honest. So, did you say Mr. Friday's playing the turbo?
Yes, he indeed. Yes, he is playing.
I'm going to guess he's chip leader.
Are we back up yet? Not yet.
I'm going to guess he's chip leader, Des. I'll leave you to work that. I brought up the chip leaders table because there's 14 players left, so we're still got 2 tables open. But
Mr. Friday, tell us.
Thomas Freitag, Mr. Friday.
Yeah, yes, I'm going to guess. That's the case. Yeah.
Superb. Are you in fact the chip leader? We think we might have you sussed.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. I reckon so. But also on that table he's got there. So you've got Tom Clark there, who is currently top of leaderboard ladders for the week. Simon Allen, friend of the show, is also on that one as well. Also in that tournament still, Shug is still playing that one. Igor Yamashuk is still there as well. He's already picked up points this week. Heribert from Germany as well is also still in that final 13. So plenty of players that we recognise that play APAT week in, week out. So good luck to all of you.
Fantastic. Love it. Steve is saying Maguire, Shaw, Rashford and Grealish go to the World Cup. I would have thought.
I'm not sure whether Rashford does.
Do you not think
I'm
so?
not sure whether Rashford does.
I think he will.
No, I don't know. I don't. just not sure whether he's done enough, because he started playing really, but then the last 2 or 3 games he's gone very, very quiet again.
Who's good against who did you beat 1-0 the other day? Right, he scored. Was it West Ham?
Yeah, West Ham. Yeah.
I think he'll go because he's one of Southgate's favourites, and we don't really have that many replacements for Kane in like a centre forward role, and Rashford can do that, even though I don't think he really does much of the time. And like, I don't think if you think about England's wide players, there aren't as many as there seemed to previously be.
Well, and also not playing well. Sterling's
exactly.
having a shocking season for Chelsea. Mason Mount isn't really doing much. I guess if you look at the City players, Foden, what is going on with Foden? He's started on the bench for the last three games, I think it is. Can't seem to get a run out. Grealish is not really doing. I mean, as a Villa fan, what do you make of the 100 million you got for Grealish and what he's done at City since then?
I mean, I was never sure that it was the right move for him, because the way Grealish played for Villa was it was kind of like he played on a counter attack, and that was his real game, is carrying the ball and running at defenders. And you don't really get to do that for City at all, because they just have the ball all the time, and then teams sit back off them. So I wasn't really sure it was a great move for him. I think he's had to adapt his game a lot. I think he's still a very good player, and I think he's still done well for City, but it kind of in a different role to people they're used to seeing him. So I think he probably gets a bit of flack unduly, just because people are used to seeing him doing, burst and run past 3 people and have a shot, and he has to kind of play the City way now. I do think he hasn't had as much of an impact, I'm sure, as he would have liked. But he's probably become a much better player since he's been at City, I would imagine. I would think he will, if he starts for England, which I don't know if he will, because I don't think Southgate's convinced. But I think he would be a much bigger threat for England than he has been when he's played for England in the past. I mean, from a Villa perspective, I was kind of resigned that he was going to go at some point, because he was just far too good to play for Villa, and he spent the best years of his career, well, all of his career, obviously, but like some of the best years of his career in the Championship and like fighting relegation, when he should have been really playing for a European team. So yeah, I think there are some Villa fans who want him to do badly, just because I think it's just kind of a bitterness thing that he's left. But I always want him to do really well, because I think he's a great player and a really likable guy.
He's had a bit of stick. Well, I mean, he always attracts a bit of stick unfairly in a lot of instances, but he's had a bit recently from Graham Souness, in particular, referring to his lack of end product, or maybe does he have the a mental ability? Does he see the game? Does he release the ball quickly enough? Stuff like that. Is that unfair in your opinion, Tom?
I think probably. I think I don't know. I think he plays in a way where it's, like I said, I think the way he plays naturally is not exactly suited to the way City play. So I think when you see him play for City, I think he's probably carrying out instructions more. He doesn't seem to get into a lot of goal scoring positions. I would agree with that, but I think that's because he's used to being the ball carrier. He's not used to kind of making a run at the back post or whatever when they've had kind of loads of possession around the box, or like making a yard and shooting, because he's used to coming from a team that plays counter-attacking. So I mean, I think Grealish himself would probably say he likes to get goals and assists, so he would want to have better numbers. But like, whenever I've seen Grealish play for City, the thing that's notable, I think, is that you rarely see him shoot. He doesn't really ever take on shots, because I think he's probably in his head is like, we're playing a possession game. We like wait for the openings and play a through ball. We don't want to have pot shots from the edge of the area.
Yeah.
So I think you could say that that's the case, but I think part of it is probably just what he's been told to do by
yeah, Pep. I think in fairness to the player, he did intimate, alongside those comments from Souness, that is in fact what Guardiola was instructing him to do, to run with the ball. I'm not quite sure, what the actual instruction was, but he did defend himself, and there's no harm in that. Mr. Friday, right? Recall Mr. Friday. It is indeed Thomas, and he agrees he is the chip leader in the moment. But how long will it hold? Good luck to you for the rest of the final table here, or in getting.
He's currently got the second in. To 12 left. He's currently got the second left. Chip leader. To his right in Simon Allen, who just managed to get queens to bust kings, the kings of James Ashcroft. So
dear.
So yeah, that's the way to go about it. I mean, Steve Forty asked a very good question in the chat, and I didn't know that there was actually it was a buyout clause with Jack Grealish with the deal. I don't know whether the 100 million was actually that triggered anything in his contract, but. He's asking the question, but if that wasn't there, 100 million, what do you actually think Jack Grealish was actually worth in the transfer market at that time?
I don't know. Yeah, that was a clause in his contract that he wanted to be put in. I think he requested it personally, and I don't think Villa would have accepted. That was the only reason they accepted the bid, is because they were contractually obliged to. It's an interesting one because the value of him to City, I think, is way less than the value of him to Villa. So to Villa, he's worth 250 million or something.
Yeah.
Because there's even if you gave us 250 million, we'd find it very hard to replace not just the way he plays, but the fact that he was the captain and he's been at Villa since he was 6 or something, and is loved by all the fans.
He still wears the same shin pads, doesn't he, from when he was 6? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the story behind that. I think he had forgotten his and had to use some kids ones or something, and then he just found it easier to play with them in, so he's kept them since. But yeah, I think to be honest, I don't know if he's worth 100 million to City. I don't. It's just that they can pay that. So it's a tough. I think it's all dependent on how much he's going to improve your club.
I think.
Well, I've often said that when Des discusses United's signings and some of the transfer fees we pay for whatever, and it's like, well, to United, and I guess the same for a City, money only comes into it if financial fair play issues need to be balanced. Other than that, if there's somebody they think will improve their squad, it doesn't really matter how much it is you're paying for that person if it does improve the overall squad. I guess United's problem is that they haven't necessarily bought players that improve the squad, but they still pay the silly money. But ultimately, then it just doesn't really matter, does it? Because for those players, it's marginal gain, isn't it?
Yeah. Plus, the thing is the way that the clubs are going to work out the transfer fee is that they're going to approximate how much the player is going to bring into the club, and that could be how good they are and how if they help them win trophies and get into European competition and win money, but also. For someone like Ronaldo, he's got kind of unlimited value in marketability, which the club has to factor in because they're going to sell like hundreds of thousands of millions of shirts with Ronaldo on just because he's there. So even if he doesn't actually make a huge impact on the pitch, the marketing and the branding that you get from him is going to make them a lot of money, which obviously is not good for fans of the club because you don't really care about United making loads of money. You care about them winning. But from a business perspective for the owners, that kind of stuff is what they're going to factor into what they pay.
Yeah, massively. I mean, United this season when Ronaldo started has been shocking. I mean, again, today we're not. You just look at the correlation of when he started, the games he started in, where we really haven't turned up. It's just extraordinary, and I was quite surprised today actually after he's played the last few games, especially when we're getting so close to the World Cup, and I just thought, is he really going to be at it? Because it's going to be his last World Cup. He's not going to want to miss out on it. So how committed is he going to be? And would we be better off playing others that may be a little bit hungrier against a Villa side that we're going to want to impress their new manager? And Ronaldo, I think, hardly got a kick really.
You had Fernandes and Anthony both out as well, didn't you?
We've got started. To be honest, we've actually got a fair few players out. I mean, Varane was just looking good at the back, and then he picked up an injury. Sancho's out at the moment. Say Anthony's out, and Fernandes is suspended after picking up a yellow card last weekend.
I was very glad of that, by the way.
Yeah. So it's kind of and so he played Donny van der Beek, who played on Thursday and looked out of his depth. And my understanding from the first half today was, again, he looked out of his depth first half today as well. And he's a strange one, because I think his confidence has absolutely been completely mullered in the past 2 years from other previous managers. And you thought when he came back in under Ten Hag, he would be able to find some form again, but it just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, but then going to Everton as well in a team that was really struggling, and just he couldn't even get in their side. It's not going to be.
No, it's unfortunately he could be one that goes on. I think you'll see United after the World Cup again, second half of the season. Again, it'll be a different team again. I think, because I have a feeling Ronaldo may well go in January, and again that will make a big change again. We so badly need a striker, somebody that can actually put the ball in the back of the net. That will make such a difference to the team.
Where's Ronaldo going to go though? Because is he out of contract at the end of the season or not?
Yeah, he'd be out of contract at the end of the
so
season.
Really.
And I guess it's a case of he didn't want to go anywhere that was going to impact on what he was doing. I feel he's very much just keeping match fit. Unfortunately, that's what he's chosen to do. In the same way, I suppose Gareth Bale went over to LA to do that for 6 months. Although he did score ridiculous. Did you see that game?
I saw the goal. It was like 128th minute or something, wasn't it?
Absolutely, incredible game of football to watch to decide the kind of the overall championship. And 120th plus 8 minutes to equalise, to take it to penalties, and then they won 3-0 on penalties.
When was this?
Night before last. So
oh my God, how did I miss that?
Oh, it was insane. So there was a late goal in the normal time, I think, and then I can't think who LA were playing. Top of somebody in chat, I'll remind you who it was.
Philadelphia or someone.
Yeah, it might be. They scored in the 120th plus 4, and then Bale comes up with a header in the 120th plus 8 to equalise, because he got a bit of a hamstring injury, so he was on the bench for this one for the final, and then it went to penalties, and they won it 3-0 on penalties. Just insane game of football to watch.
I wonder if for Ronaldo and Bale, it could be that they both, once the World Cup's done, just retire, because like neither of them seem to be fully fit, and it's like, do you really? What's the? I think
Bale would, because I think once he's done this with Wales,